I hate it when I have to admit that I may have been wrong about something. But every now and then it comes up, and as soon as I realize my mistake, I'm quick to fess up. The quicker I can admit I was wrong, the quicker we can all get past it and forgive and forget. And that's what's happening here. A few months back, I made a video about function calling in Ollama and how it compared with function calling in OpenAI. I suggested that function calling in OpenAI was just about outputting JSON in an expected format. And wow, the floodgates opened. The comments that I was getting suggested that I had it completely wrong. They were calling me names and being downright disgusting and rude. Some of those comments didn't get approved because they were just so nasty. So let's step back and review what I said in a bit more detail. I said function calling, as defined by OpenAI, never actually calls functions, but instead outputs a JSON blob that's stuck to a predefined schema. I suggested that this is what is documented in the OpenAI documentation, and then I said that Ollama was able to do exactly the same thing. All you had to do was specify format JSON in the API call, tell the model to output as JSON in the prompt, optionally provide some variation of a schema in the prompt, and maybe even at least one example. I think I even pointed to docs and simple examples of how to do it in Ollama. And that points to the problem. No, the mistake I made. And I apologize to all of my viewers, both the supporters and the haters, from the bottom of my heart, and will try not to make that mistake ever again. Can you see my mistake? What part was wrong in my description of what OpenAI does or what Ollama does with regards to function calling? What did I do wrong in that video? I almost feel like I need to slap my forehead and scream for forgiveness now that I know. You may even feel the same in just a second. My mistake was an assumption. And we all know what happens when we assume. We make an ass out of you and me. My assumption was that, well, viewers of the video would actually try it before blaming me for all the woes of the world, because it turned out that everything I said in that video was 100% accurate and true. I assumed that folks were smart enough to take this simple example and apply it to complex situations before jumping to an inaccurate conclusion and writing a long diatribe about what an idiot I was. There were two main complaints folks had. First, some people said that function calling really was about a model calling a function. Well, if you believe that, then I have a bridge to sell to you. The other one was that, sure, the model doesn't call the function, but the magic is that the model can decide which function to run. And each time that came up, my reply was, yeah, this is part of function calling, and Ollama does that. But because I didn't provide the exact example, folks couldn't make the leap. And that was a mistake. I should have provided an example that showed how to do that. Sorry. So in this video, we're going to go over that more complex example. Do I think this will appease the haters out there? Of course not. I am sure they are going to find something else wrong with it and decide OpenAI is the only solution that can do function calling correctly. And I just have to be fine with them living in their land of make-believe. So how do we do function calling? Let's jump over to my code. The goal of this exercise is going to be to answer 4 questions. What is the weather in London? What is the weather at some specific coordinates? Who is the current CEO of Tesla? And what is located at another set of coordinates? There is no way for a model to know these things accurately, so I'm going to need a few tools to run. Let's start with getting the weather based on coordinates. So I can create this function called weather from lat.lon that takes a latitude and a longitude, calls the OpenMeteo API, returning the temperature, and writing that out to the console. Next, I need to get the weather for a place name. Well, OpenMeteo API only works with latitude and longitude, but I can use the nominatum API to go from the place name to those coordinates. Then weather from location can call that function, then feed the answer to weather from lat/lon. The next one is needing to do a web search, so we can find info on the current CEO of Tesla. I have SearchNG installed and running, so I just need to create this function that spits out the first result. If I was doing more than a quick sample, I might feed this info from all the results back to the model to come up with a good sounding summary. Finally, we can use nominatum again to go from coordinates to a place name. Okay, now we need to tell the model about our 4 functions. But again, since the model doesn't actually call the functions, it needs a description of the functions. Now, I am sure I could use introspection, reflection, something like that to figure out the function name and the parameters to feed to the model. But I'm just going to go manual here and describe the functions myself. So I can create tool descriptions for weather from lat/lon, weather from location, web search, and city from lat/lon like this. There isn't anything special about this format. I just randomly came up with it. And now, since a model prompt needs to be text, I'll put all of these into an array and stringify the array. Now I can come up with a system prompt that includes my instructions and point to the list of tools. Most of the code to actually call the model is going to be the same for each of the 4 questions. So I'll create a prompt and answer function that takes a prompt and then calls ollama.generate. These are pretty simple calls, so generate is just fine for me. The key parts to getting this to work is specifying format is JSON and telling the model to respond as JSON in the system prompt. Then it spits out the function name to call and the parameters. There are some folks out there that will say that you need to use special models that are fine-tuned for function calling in order to get function calling to work. And that is complete BS. If I run it right now from Llama 3, I get these results. I'll change the model to Qwen 2 and run it again. Now Gemma 2 and run it again. I'll even run it with Llama 2. And that's a model from about a year ago, and it works perfectly. But I created the actual functions to run, so can we get the actual answers? Sure. Let's replace the console log line with a call to execute function that takes a function name and the parameters. There's probably a smarter way to do this, but execute function just goes through a simple switch statement to call the right functions. And we get the right results, no matter what model we use. That said, there are probably some models that suck at this, but generally, they all seem to work really well. And that's all there is to function calling. This was a simple example. In a more complex example, you might have the model figure out the steps required to come up with the information and then call each of those tools in series. Maybe you want to have the model respond with a tool only if it's actually necessary to run a tool. Both are totally doable, but I'm sure you can do that on your own with a few tweaks to the prompt. Or you apply this to agent workflows, and there's no limit to what you can build. And I can't think of a scenario where you need any of those agent frameworks. There are some changes to this that are possibly coming soon. There's currently a PR from Mike on the core Ollama team called Tools. It's number 5284. It suggests a more rigid format to messages and maybe also the generate endpoint that lists different tools that can be used. It won't add any new capabilities to what Ollama can do today, but it does offer a specific schema so you don't have to make it up. Some folks will really appreciate that. What's the time frame for that? Well, nothing gets added till it's really ready, and there's a lot of PRs, even ones by core team members, that can sit for weeks or months before it's ready. So it could be next week, or next year, or never. But again, it offers no real new functionality and is just another way of doing things that Ollama already does. So I look forward to seeing it that soon, and when it does show up, I'll make a new video about it. What do you think? Are you doing something like this in your own applications? I would love to hear more about it in some of the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye. Dribbling.